2050. In 2050, the UN estimates there will be 9.7 billion people on this planet, as you can see on this graph. The question is now, how are we going to feed them all sustainably? For the next hour, I will be your host at a unique food event. But first, help me please welcome the three chefs. We got Rob from Alaska. We got Sheila from Nunavut. And Rúnar, the local man from Reykjavik. Thank you very much. And this is the energy I want you guys to keep for the next hour. So while these amazing chefs will cook for you, and they will start now, I will introduce some speakers on stage, some food producers. But before we start that, let's just hear quickly, who they are, these guys that will be cooking in front of you for the next hour. And Rob, I know you cook for Obama, but what else should I know about you?
I'm born and raised Alaskan. I'm of Tlingit heritage, southeastern Alaska native. I currently reside in Durham, North Carolina, and I'm outreach director for NATIFS, North American Traditional Indigenous Food Systems, which highlights education, accessibility, and comprehension of indigenous foods.
Amazing. I'm looking forward. We'll talk more with them, and if you want to hear more from them, there will also be a session upstairs at 4 o'clock where you will hear a lot more from the chefs. Sheila, you were on MasterChef in Canada, so you used to be on the big stage on screen, but what else should we know about you?
Thanks, Mads. I'm from Iqaluit, Nunavut in Canada, Canada's best territory. And I'm really happy to be here. I'm the chef and founder of Siu-Tsiu. It's an Inuit culinary tourism venture. Right now we're in a pilot launch, but we're aiming to open doors in about 2 years' time.
Perfect. So, when you have to book your tickets for Nunavut and taste some more food. And then we got Chef of the Year here in Iceland and also owner of a Michelin star.
Yes.
What else should I know about you, Rúnar?
Well, I'm from the Westfjords and Sulavik, small little village. And then my dad is Haitian, so I'm half American. Head chef at Oaks, where we got our first star, which we're quite proud of. We're humble Sulavik. But other than that, trying to showcase some good food.
Perfect. Amazing. Let's give them a round of applause. This whole show would not be possible with all the amazing sponsors and supporters. So we have everyone from governments, we have businesses, we have NGOs, we have the smallest SMEs donating 1 carrot, and we have companies donating several kilos of fish. This is truly Arctic collaboration. So let's look at a map for a second. No, the real map. Perfect. And let's add the people on the map. Perfect. So this is the important map, and we got food. We got white king salmon from Alaska. We got muskox from Greenland. We got seaweed from the Faroe Islands. We got mushrooms from Finland, and we even got beers from Tromsø. And if you want to taste a lot of this, upstairs you will be able to taste a lot of this. But one thing is, we will be a lot of people on this planet. Another issue is this. Global warming in the Arctic happens at 4 times the rate that the rest of the world, even at 7 times the rate at some places. This has an impact on food security, and it has an impact on the Arctic region, of course. So not only food security globally, but also in the Arctic. Small indigenous communities might have to find new places to hunt, but also new food sources will be available. With climate change, you will find seaweed in new places, and some seaweed will disappear. And seaweed is really important, because in the past 500 million years, seaweed has been removing CO2 from the atmosphere. And today, all the seaweed in the world stores what is like to 10% of the emissions from all cars in the world. And to give you an example of what you can do with seaweed, because this is an unexplored area, we'll go to northern Norway in Lofoten and try to hear from a company that is working with seaweed. So let's put on the video from Lofoten.
I'm a fisherman's daughter, and I grew up here in Lofoten. My ancestors have lived of the oceans for thousands of years, and it is the essence of our very existence.
Seaweed has been a major part of my diet my whole life. My mother is Japanese, and she has been a big inspiration for our products. In Asian cooking, seaweed is used for a flavour that is little known in the West, umami. Also known for its health benefits, seaweed contains more vitamins and minerals than any other plant on the planet.
Meeting Tamara and learning about Japanese food traditions has opened up a whole new world of food for me. There is so much more than fish. Lofoten is surrounded by clean Arctic waters and home to the 4th strongest tidal current in the world, which make the perfect environment for seaweed to grow. My father has passed on his knowledge on how to read the weather, how to navigate these shores, and how vulnerable we are when nature isn't in balance.
So this is one way of sourcing seaweed. So either you do it from land and you go out and you source it. You can also do it taking a boat out and sourcing the seaweed, like we saw from ocean rainforests where they have divers in. Sourcing of food can happen in different ways. Now we will go to Alaska, where the seafood industry plays an important role when it comes to sourcing. So I would like to welcome Hannah on stage from Alaska Seafood Marketing Institute and tell us a little bit about what exactly it is that you're doing with the seafood in Alaska. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mads. It's really an honor to be here today and to share the stage with these amazing chefs and also the fantastic products that they're working with, especially the wild, natural, and sustainable Alaska Ivory King that we brought. You know, we have over 100 commercially harvested species in Alaska, and I had to choose just one to bring. And the reason that I chose Ivory King is because it's so rare and it's so special. And I think it's emblematic of the one thing that I would like everybody to take away from this session, and that is it's wild. It's wild, and all Alaska finfish is wild. In fact, finfish farming is illegal in Alaska. And why that's really important to me right here today now is because 2022 is the year that aquaculture production globally will overtake global wild capture production. And while it's certainly important that we continue to feed that growing population, and we understand that, my job and the job of Alaskans now is to continue to differentiate our wild Alaska seafood as we become a smaller and smaller piece of the overall seafood pie. And the reason this is important is that seafood is the backbone of our economy. It is the #1 private sector employer in Alaska and supports over 60,000 jobs in Alaska, mostly in small, rural, coastal communities. Fishing is a way of life, and it is extremely important. Most Alaska seafood comes to you caught on very small boats. This wild Alaska Ivory King was caught in Sitka, Alaska, which is southeast Alaska. It's Tlingit, Ani, where Rob is from. And it was, taken on board a small boat from a hook and line fishery and treated with care, frozen on board, so that it could, make its way here to us in Iceland, and so that we can share it with all of you. And I hope that everyone gets a chance to taste some of the Alaskan products we have here today. And when you go out into the marketplace and you might see some Alaska products, remember the people of Alaska who are harvesting and how important our wild seafood is to us. Thank you.
Let's give a round of applause. And you will be able to taste some of this that Hannah talked about, again, upstairs. The blue economy, as we heard in Alaska, is a big player in the Arctic region. The same goes for Greenland, where the fishing industry is more than 90% of its export in Greenland and the main source of jobs. But it's not only about the big industries like fishing. Food is also important in smaller settlements and on a very different scale. And what I would like to take you now is I would like to take you to eastern Greenland and the town of Tasiilaq, where there is an amazing project called Siu-Tsiu that works with young people around food production. So let's put on the video from East Greenland.
We are Siu-Tsiu in Tasiilaq, the east of Greenland. We are the first social enterprise registered in Greenland, and we work with youngsters who are not employed or doing an education. We work with them for 10 months as our colleagues, where we do many different jobs of manual labor. One of the things we do is that we build a garden in Tasiilaq. We grow many things. Amongst those, we grow kale, potatoes, radishes, turnips, dill, and we have many different flowers. We provide fresh vegetables for our local community, and we have succeeded very well with creating a garden this far north in the Arctic.
I think personally, I think this is amazing. It's really working with the young people, and it's really trying to get local food production. So we don't need to send everything in big containers up north. Rob, I mean, it smells amazing over here already, and I'm getting hungry. But you started up saying you worked with indigenous food, and you were involved with that. Maybe you could elaborate. What does that mean to you, like indigenous food?
Indigenous food would be the food that the indigenous people of an area would procure from. So I know that there is not an indigenous population here, but it actually really warms my heart to be working with these ingredients. I have, obviously lamb is not indigenous, but you have char, you have a lot of seaweeds. I have a crush on smoked dulse. That's like my thing right now. Beautiful. We've got some tundra moss that we're going to use as a garnish. And then some other, I think I have some ludo, and again, some salted seaweed in here as well for the salad. So to me, it's the ingredients that, number one, is something that will be procured from the indigenous people of an area. And then the other part is that, generally speaking, the nutrient density you get from that food, it takes care of you. Like, for example, in northern climates, like in Utagavik or Barrow, Alaska, where I visited, that's not where I'm from. I'm from a nice, cozy rainforest area. The high density and high fats actually take care of you as the sun goes down from November. So it's healthier. Absolutely.
And I mean, you're talking about the sun going down. I mean, those of us living in the Arctic, we know we got long times of no sun. How do you, as a chef, how do you deal with seasonality in these extreme climates?
That is something we're working on at NATIFS, North American Traditional Indigenous Food Systems.
So you think it's possible to like source more food locally, even though the sun doesn't rise for several months?
What we have in our defense right now is technology. So, I got to travel around Iceland. I saw geothermal generators or geothermal powered hothouses where you're getting those traditionally seasonal ingredients served, year round. And that's a huge benefit. So
amazing.
Yeah.
We will, as I said, if you want to hear more from Rob, come upstairs at 4 o'clock and there will be a more like in-depth talks with Rob. And what he talked about is also vertical farming. Vertical farming is getting a bigger thing. But the AC is not only doing this event because we like food, we like cooking like everyone else. We do this because the Arctic food really has potential to create new jobs and create a lot of wealth throughout the region, from smaller settlements to bigger towns. And this is an estimate from the Arctic Council Sustainable Development Working Group. And look at those numbers. Those are big numbers, especially in a region with just 4 million people. So food definitely has a big impact in the region. And then the number is just growing, as we see. The need for food is growing, so will this number grow, hopefully. And global warming will also open up new transport routes and new opportunities. So suddenly we can start exporting our food to completely new areas. So there's also an opportunity here with shipping. And talking about net food sources, I would like to invite the next guest, because over here, we have some, a particular kind of, it's not a traditional Icelandic piece of food, but it's the man who is behind this is Olli Hall. He's a food entrepreneur from Iceland. And maybe you could explain the crowd what Nordic Wasabi is, because we know about the traditional indigenous food, but what is Nordic Wasabi?
Yes, thank you, Matt. So it's a pleasure to be able to be here and tell you all about this. I think the first thing we need to start with is telling everyone that 95 to 99% of what is sold as wasabi in the world is actually not real wasabi. It is a mix of horseradish, mustard, and green food coloring. In the east coast of Iceland, we have cracked the code to growing fresh wasabi, which is considered to be one of the hardest plants in the world to grow. We wanted to utilize the resources that we have in Iceland, which are the renewable energy sources, the geothermal heat, the technology we have with years of growing in greenhouses, and then one of the most important factors, which is the clean Icelandic water. And what we have got is a really fantastic product. It has a lot of characteristics. It is, like I said, considered to be one of the hardest plants to grow. So it has some personality disorders. It wants to be cold at one moment and hot at one, and then it needs a lot of sun, but it also likes a lot of shade. And we had people taking risk on this company in the beginning because we had this idea to grow wasabi, and it took 1 year to see if we would be able to grow it. And then once we had grown it, we didn't know how it was going to taste. So after 1 year, when we finally got a plant, managed to taste it, it was like, whew, okay, it's good. And Rúnar has actually been one of the finest ambassadors of the product in his restaurant Oaks, which just received a Michelin star, the second one in Iceland. So that's a really big thing. And Rúnar, how many courses in your menu have had wasabi? Like in one whole menu, what's the record of courses with wasabi?
Right now it's 13. In different shapes and forms.
So it's a product that's received a lot of good feedback from chefs all over the world, and we've been at Noma and we've been at many Michelin restaurants all over, and we just wanted to create a product that's grown sustainably and is new and makes sense for export. So I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. Nordic wasabi, who would have known? And this is really food innovation, and we will hear a lot more about food innovation. For me personally, the people traditionally the most innovative people, not only with food but with inventions, are the indigenous groups across the Arctic region. I mean, the first rain jacket was invented by people in Greenland several hundred years ago. And especially what indigenous communities are good at when it comes to food is using all of their products. And also eating maybe food sources that traditionally is not eaten in Copenhagen, London, or New York. And one of these food sources that, when I go to Nunavut or when I go to Greenland, that I see in the supermarkets is seal meat. And seal meat is amazing because it got a lot of C vitamin that people need when the sun is not shining all the time. And we actually have a chef here who is cooking with seal, and who has also been to Greenland a lot and who's been working with traditional indigenous food for a long time. Mm-hmm. So maybe you could, this is seal, right?
Yes, it's a ring seal that you brought to Iceland for me for today, so I'm very happy.
And over there is also seal as well?
Yes, so two of the dishes that I'm presenting today is seal pate, canapé, and then braised seal shank.
Perfect. And how can we get this food out into the global markets? I mean, what can we do to help promote? I mean, you're eating this at home, mm-hmm. but how do we make sure that people outside of Nunavut and outside of Greenland eats more of this kind of food? Do you have any ideas for this?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, there's the public health regulations in Canada allows me to, and the Nunavut land claim agreement actually allows me to, as an Inuk, to sell prepared Inuit foods, Siu-Tsiu, but there's an obstacle because once Siu-Tsiu is operational, as an example, I cannot export Siu-Tsiu at the moment across a jurisdiction. So I would just wish that there'd be more support for ethically sustainable, safe harvests of animals. Inuit have been harvesting seals and other marine mammals since time immemorial. So we know how to process and keep our food safe. So I just wish the food safety regulations would be accommodating, better accommodating.
Yeah, and this is a common thing we hear from across the region. This is not only about Nunavut, but like helping to get these kind of unique food sources from the Arctic, getting them into the global markets. We need to look at regulation. I'm curious about the new company you will be starting. You mentioned in 2 years, people can come to Nunavut, and what is it that they can see, hopefully in 2 years, the Siu-Tsiu?
Well, I was really inspired by actually going to Rúnar's restaurant the other night, Oaks, and I enjoyed the 20-course menu, and I can't remember if 13 of them were with wasabi, but certainly if you have a chance to get to Oaks, sometimes they do have cancellations, and so I was quite lucky. But I was really inspired to sit in Oaks because currently in the pilot launch of Siu-Tsiu, I offer tasting menus, Inuit tasting menus for 6 people in my home. I'm fully, I'm above board in every which way, incorporated and have insurance and whatnot. But so I don't want to go much bigger than 6 people. But when we do have a new building that we have to construct on our property, it'll be like a chef's table event space for pop-up evenings, and I'll have a nice commercial kitchen, and we'll have a bed and breakfast upstairs so that guests can enjoy being in an Inuit bed and breakfast and eat Inuit food. And
well, that's amazing. Let's give a round of applause for this, because I really think this is inspiring. Thank you very much, Sheila. And we will talk more about this culinary tourism as well. And as I mentioned, to be sustainable is really to waste less. That's the meaning of sustainability. But we also need it to make economic sense. So we need to learn to make high-value products from what we used to throw out. So on the left here, you see this is a fish. This is what we used to do in the past. We either made quality seafood, and then we have animal feedstock. That's how we did it in the past. But the future, and actually it's not even the future, the present is what you see on the right. That suddenly we are making beverage, we are making pharmaceutical, and so on. And as I said, the future is already here. What you see here, this is skin from the codfish here in Iceland. This skin is from a unique company called Kehitys. And Kehitys is from a small place, actually close to where Rúnar is from, 2,500 people. And they get this skin from the fishermen. But what they do is they treat it, and suddenly it becomes a pharmaceutical product, a medical product that you can put on burn wounds, for example. So suddenly you go from having, what used to be fish skin that used to be thrown away, to suddenly have something you can use in the medical industry. Another example, if you go to my hometown of Tromsø, this is Marialis. It's a company that is a traditional 100 years old shrimp company, and they just used to sell shrimp to different countries. And they realized they have a lot of waste. And what they found out is that they can make hard medicine using the waste from the shrimp. So this, if you have too high blood pressure, you can take this, which is made from a waste product. But one of the key men who is behind this, or one of the key people behind this and promoting this using the full utilization, is Thor Sigfusson here from Iceland, from the Iceland Ocean Cluster. And Thor, maybe you could explain a little bit more about this full utilization and full use of the products.
First, Mats, what an amazing event. Let's give him applause. The Iceland Ocean Cluster is basically the idea of matchmaking, taking the whole value chain from the seafood and connecting people, from the fishermen up to the pharmacist, everything in between. I think that's basically what we've been doing. And the success in Iceland is basically now that we've been able to utilize now up to 90% of each cod. And this is huge, because there are still 10 million metric tons of what people call waste in the seafood industry globally. This is no waste. These are proteins, these are the best proteins in the world, these are the wild, sustainable, natural proteins that we should use absolutely. And we have now the opportunity, as I see it, and this is actually from our Canadian friends and the US friends around the Great Lakes, we have the opportunity to take this knowledge and do more, connect people and make sure that we can take it into other species. I would like to see the Alaskan pollock used more. I would like to see the Greenlandic halibut being utilized more. And these are opportunities that are hands-on, low-hanging fruits for us right now. And by connecting people, just as you're doing here, that's probably the most important part of the whole thing. But I would most also emphasize that the opportunities with these guys, the chefs, are huge. Because the problem with many of our coastal villages is that it's kind of difficult with logistics. But if we can get the restaurants in these places, like we've done in Iceland, I was just in the Westman Islands that has a special event on this, we can do amazing things with the chefs in connections with small boaters to create value from these products. Once again, Mats, Thanks a lot. It's been amazing.
Thank you to Thor. And the Iceland Ocean Cluster is really worth a visit. So reach out to Thor if you get the chance. There's a lot of good cases of how to actually use this waste. So thank you very much. When I did this event, some people told me that it was not sustainable to ship things out from the Arctic. There was this idea that apparently it was sustainable to ship things to the Arctic, but not from the Arctic outside. Even though we have empty containers and we have huge investments in hydrogen, which will make shipping a lot greener. So I said, okay, I still think there's opportunity to sell more Arctic food to the market, but there's definitely an opportunity for culinary tourism. And one example is if you go to the Faroe Islands, you got a 2-star Michelin restaurant called Restaurant Cox that is currently located in the high north of Greenland, a 2-star Michelin restaurant in the high Arctic region. Another way to work with this culinary tourism is what the cultural cities are doing, like Bodø 2024 or Oulu 2026. So at the food booth upstairs here, we have some partners, both from Bodø 2024 and from Oulu 2026, that are both focusing on local food. And we will now first see a short video, and then we will go to Finland, and we will hear from Oulu and hear about how they work with food there. So let's put on the video from Oulu 2026.
Food isn't just nutrition, it's an experience. To us, food is so much more than sustenance. It's a joy we get to experience together around the table. It keeps us together through life. It's a shared experience, an Arctic culture. And the final touch is the Arctic food that brings us all together to savor, fused together by our environment. Life in the north is intense, even harsh. It takes distinctive character to brave these elements and conditions, and yet, what it offers is worth it. Resilient, tough character for us, the people, strong and pure flavors to nature's best ingredients, which we then use to prepare our food. The harsh nature that these were built from, we cherish, from chilling sea winds to the vast green wilderness of our forests. It's what shaped us. We cherish it by making most of what it offers. The unique, high-quality ingredients crafted into foods with love and care. So we can share even some of that experience with you.
So that was the European Capital of Culture in Finland. And we have 3 representatives from here, and they will all give their 1-minute pitches, give and take. So take it away. Let's hear from Finland what you're doing around food.
Thank you, Mats. Hello, everyone. That video showed you where we come from. It's Oulu, the Arctic part of Finland, very near where the Santa comes from. And we've been selected as European Capital of Culture in year 2026. We believe that you are what you eat. Food is an important piece of our identity. What you eat reflects on how you think and how you live your life. When you eat locally produced food, you'll start appreciating it. It affects your behavior. We see food as culture. That's why we are here today to present how Oulu tastes like. For instance, I have a strawberry field on my backyard, and I guarantee that these are the best strawberries in the whole world. They have to survive through cold times when growing up. It might be snowing still during June, but once they'll manage to midsummer and get to enjoy all the light, the midnight sun, they grow to their best, sweetest, pure taste. Harsh climate challenges our ingredients, and it's the same for all our ingredients. And also the fact that you have to do quite a job to reach them. That shapes us, northern people, to be similar. hardworking, honest, never giving up, but also unbelievably tasty and interesting. We are Arctic Food Lab, and we brought a piece of our food with us. It's really good to be here in Iceland today, and thanks for this possibility.
Do you know where the best potatoes in the world grow? High-grade area in Tyrnävän, Finland. High-grade area benefits from the long Finnish summer day with their extended daylight hours, which they have a positive impact in the group capacity and stress formation of potatoes. Tyrnävä has in Finland secret speed potato center. We have mother potatoes of all varieties, seed potatoes. We take care of the supply security of Finland potatoes. And of course, we have new technologies. It is aerobic potatoes. Method is that potatoes grow in a dark, enclosed chamber hanging in the air. Peat or anointed grow medium is not used. Potatoes are grown just the right amount water and nutrients. Are potatoes.
Are potatoes. So I make cheese with my mom. So that's it. So did you know that there's a cow species in Finland who are just like us, the people living in the north? These original Lapland cows are tough like us, curious and gentle like us, and most of all beautiful, just like us. My mom used to tell me stories of her growing up with these cows. Every morning, mom and her grandma used to take their cows to the forest to eat. So the forest was their buffet. Well, time has passed and we've learned that these cows produce a special kind of milk. Their milk contains only the purest form of milk casein called A2. This makes the milk healthier compared to the milk that we find from the stores. And this is what our company, Mini-Meijeri, is all about. So when I heard that I have the chance to come here to visit you in Iceland, which is a hot country, I guess, I told my mom to fire up the cheese kettle so that we can bring the best out of Lapland to you. So meet us upstairs restaurant in La Primavera. Thank you.
Thank you. And these 3 Finns you saw here and a few more, they actually brought a lot of food with them from Finland. And if you want to taste some of all of that food, we have the food booth. It finished around 5, maybe a little bit before 5, depending. But more importantly, the people that have helped cooking with that food, and you will see some of them in the corner over there, and they're probably the most important people, but these are the chef students from the Icelandic Culinary School. And they have been an amazing help. They're helping the chefs here, and they're helping upstairs as well. So let's give the Culinary School a round of applause. So all of these chefs were really excited about cooking with all these products that we got them, like Arctic crab, and we got them seaweed and so on. And it was, I'm sure that I saw a few Michelin stars in that room when I was talking with them. And talking about Michelin stars, let's go to you, Rúnar, and talk about sustainability, because we talked about food security, we talked about local products, and we heard from Thor that what restaurants are doing is important when it comes to sustainability. Of course. Maybe you could elaborate a little bit. What is sustainability for you as a chef?
So for me, as grown and raised in Iceland, but I've traveled and worked in a lot of different countries, I would say the potential in Iceland, both in growing and as a cuisine, is tremendous. And my goal at Ox is we have a 20-course menu, but then we're working with fewer ingredients and then spread them out to showcase and then extract the different flavors and textures of different ingredients. And that's for me. The wasabi comes strong in there. It's, like Oli said, it's one of the hardest things to grow in the world. So in my opinion, we should, in Iceland, farmers focus on growing more different around vegetables, and I think the potential there is really good. So I look and search for different producers who may be able to change a little bit of our food culture. So we don't just have fermented shark and sheep balls. We have a little bit of more luxurious product. So that's kind of.
And I'm a bit curious. So what is important is they saying we don't only have fermented shark, because there is an idea that this Arctic food should be very traditional and so on. But when I look at your menu and what you're cooking, you're doing fusion. You know, you're doing like Asian spices, Haitian maybe even. Could you maybe explain a little bit about your food philosophy using, you know, you talk about Icelandic products, but it's not Icelandic food necessarily.
I think the base is, for as a chef, you learn the base of cooking techniques. And I think what we need to do, and I try to do, is look into different culture. And I look mainly into Asian food, just because of their techniques of making things. So look at how they make sauces or work with seaweeds. So we have the similar ingredients. So basically, we're taking that and then using our ingredient to showcase. It doesn't have to be the same thing, but I think, like my generation right now, we're trying to showcase that the Icelandic cuisine can grow. Yeah. The cuisine generally is quite raw and quite new. So there's a lot of ingredients in Iceland in general that isn't really being used, just because we don't have the technique or knowledge to use it. So that's where Ox comes in.
Perfect. So remember, go out and buy some food at the restaurant, support the food sector, so we can help it make it grow. We are almost coming to the end, but of course we cannot have a food show without tastings and so on. And I just want to put a little bit of perspective into what we talked about, because we started out talking about we're going to be a lot more people on this planet. Not necessarily in the Arctic region, if you look at the demographics as I said right now. We talk about climate change is going to have a big impact, not only in the Arctic, but globally. We talked about the economic impact that food has to the Arctic region. And then we talked about full utilization, using more of the food, so wasting less, you know, being sustainable. And then we talked about culinary tourism, you know, getting people, for example, from Asia into the Arctic region and tasting some of the products. But it's also about getting the products to the market. So if you look at a lot of food producers across the Arctic region, they're selling to Southeast Asia. That's where their markets are. And you know, we have to balance this between, you know, both serving some local products to tourists that comes from around the world, but we also help to provide food to these people. And as you see, there's more people living inside of this circle than outside of it. And also, just for the record, we got space for more people in the Arctic. So if they feel squeezed out, definitely, you know, come up to the Arctic. We got a lot of space. I think Asia and the Arctic region got a lot in common. And the reason why I'm saying this is because there's commercial bonds for many, many years. We are feeling the change of demographics one way or another. Both of us are definitely feeling urbanization and demographics, and we both of us are feeling the climate change. So we will have a few tasters from Japan, we will have a few tasters from China. We will also have some tasters from the region who will come up and taste this food. And so while we are getting the tables up to put the tastings on, then we will just see short videos from Arctis Mat in Boulder in northern Norway that you can also meet upstairs. That has also been very, very helpful in this event. And then we'll just play this video, and I would like to invite all the tasters to come on stage. And then we will taste some of the food, and the chefs will have time to present their food. And we will also have a little surprise for you. So give a round of applause to the chef for their work so far, and let's welcome the tasters. Questions to some of the tasters, and then if the assistants to the chefs, if they can help putting some of the food on the front table. And just before we start introducing what we're actually cooking, I would like to hear from a researcher who is studying in Finland, and you're also from China, and you're studying geopolitics and the bigger picture, but I'm a bit curious. What do you think Arctic producers could do to help getting more of their products into the Asian market, into China, for example?
Well, thank you very much for your invitation. I think that's a great question, and I also believe you have already had a fabulous answer for yourself. Live cooking. Yeah, I believe the potential companies, they can live stream or recording the live cooking to the potential Chinese customers. And also, well, I can't speak on behalf of all the Chinese customers, but I believe we prefer to get food directly from producers. So why don't they use the well-developed online shopping platform, directly sell the food to the customers?
Definitely, that's one option. And we also have Mr. Suzuki here, and you're the ambassador to Japan here in Iceland. And do you think the Japanese palate is that ready for Icelandic cuisine? And do you see any opportunities there? We heard about wasabi, for example. You know, obviously we heard a lot about seafood. But where do you see the potential between Japan and, for example, Icelandic cuisine?
Well, one amazing things that I observed today during your presentation is the amazing, well, cross-culturalization that is happening in the area of food. Well, you couldn't imagine, well, having wasabi produced here in Iceland without, you know, the background of sushi, well, being prevalent globally. I mean, all over the world. And in recent years, well, we see many restaurants serving excellent sushi here in Reykjavik as well. So, well, we do see that, well, Icelandic people are appreciating, well, a part of the Japanese culture. So I can see, well, reason why Japanese, well, people do not appreciate, you know, Arctic food and those innovative chef creations. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. We will just now do a round of the chefs presenting what they've cooked. And we are ahead of time, so they have time to speak for more than the minute I gave them to present their food, which is good. So if we start here with Rúnar, what have you cooked for our guest?
So first off, I'm working with hand-dyed scallops from the Westfjords, the fjord behind my family's farm. This time I'm going to serve raw, a little bit of salt, and then we add some licorice root oil to marinate it, and then my favorite ingredient, the Icelandic wasabi. So use a little bit of the fresh paste on top, and then we use the leaves as the sauce. To blend a little bit of citric tones to it, so it's a tiny bit of kick as well to it. And then we use the stems as well from the root, add that on top. And then we have our traditional Scandinavian general, which is hot smoked salmon. I'm working with the Viking salmon from Alaska now. And with it, we're doing a little bit of spruce tops. They're about 2 years old, fermented and given to actually by one of my students. And then with it, we're doing a sauce made from roasted cod heads. So using the cod heads for another dish, we're using the cheeks there, and then make the base, and then we add sea urchin, which also comes from the Westfjords, which is one of the ingredients I think we in Iceland should use more of. And then with the cod cheeks underneath it, we actually have a traditional, or our take on traditional Japanese custard chawanmushi. And we're using a little bit of seaweed, both dulse and sea truffles. And then we're going to do a sauce made from the liver and the skirts of the Icelandic scallop.
And you know the tasters has to repeat all of this in a second, just so you're aware. Perfect. If the assistant, if you could just put it up there, and then you can start tasting, and I will come back and ask you how it tastes. And Sheila, what do we have here? What have you cooked for us?
Yes, we prepared seal pate appetizers and braised seal shank. So this is just to demonstrate how beautiful a seal shank is. For the braising, we braised it in seal bone broth and vegetables. We used the seasoning. We used Arctic thyme and some juniper, dried juniper berries. And we're presenting this seal shank with parsnip puree and roasted cabbage with some tarragon oil. And for this, I really love this preparation of seal meat. It's a seal pate, and we ground the meat at the school yesterday, and there were a selection of breads because not only do they have a cooking program, but they have a baking program also, which I think I ate too many pastries, but at the end of the day. But in any case, so I went with a steamed Icelandic bread and layered with blueberry mustard and truffle. Sea truffle, thank you. Sea truffle with the seal pate and also some seaweed pearls.
Yeah, the algae is from Lofoten Seaweed, from the company you saw before.
Yes.
They have these small pearls that can be heated up and they stay as pearls. So it's almost like Arctic caviar.
Yes, yeah, and I just love the texture of them, and then it's topped with Icelandic moss with dusted seaweed.
I'm getting so hungry. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting very, very hungry. We will have to taste that, and we'll move on to Rob and see what's cooking in Alaska at the moment.
Absolutely. So for an appetizer, I have a beet and berry cured char. So I used beets and crowberries to marinate it. The salad itself is local greens. It's also got some salted seaweed, some smoked dulse, and some ludo, so dried halibut, and I kind of added that around there for texture as well. Finished with a sea truffle oil, because I guess we all love sea truffles here. And then for entree, I did lamb 3 ways. So I have Icelandic lamb, and I shiitake, dry shiitake coated, seared, and braised leg. The saddle I took, and I actually used Angelita and other local herbs. Arctic, I believe I used lovage, yarrow, and Arctic thyme. Seared it, so that's kind of, you got the beautiful kind of a nice delicate cut there. And then I actually, again, I was actually doing a lot of whole animal butchery for a while, and one thing I would do that was quite popular was curing the heart. So I did like a lamb heart confit as well. So we have 3 different aspects of the lamb. Underneath we have a blueberry and Angelica glaze. And then the vegetables underneath are kind of an Icelandic hash. So we've got roasted cabbage from a very lovely farmer. We've got carrots. I guess the one carrot that was donated to this is on this plate. As well as, I think I have some fennel in there and some local celery. Again, I have the carrot I also took and I just kind of shaved it, salted it a little bit, and I garnished it with the moss as well, which I don't think the lambs eat, but they're probably walking on it. So a little taste of Iceland here.
Let's give a big round of applause. No, wait, Sheila has, before we give a big round of applause to all the chefs. Sheila.
Sorry, Mads, I totally forgot. So the seal bone broth, Inuit, we drink this. It's called kajuk, which is the broth, the bone broth. And just to really have an impactful flavor, we made a bone broth, and then we braised the seal shank in the bone broth, and then just to give it more of an intense flavor. So this is also being presented today.
So just to recap, we got Alaskan salmon, we got Nordic wasabi from Iceland, we got seal from Greenland, we got lamb here, we got vegetables grown in geothermal heated greenhouses. We got moss, we got dried heart, we got amazing products, and it's all done by these 3 chefs in less than 45 minutes. So let's give them a round of applause. And I'm actually going to ask one of our big assistants in all of this is from the culinary school, and I'll just ask you how the food actually tastes, because you're a chef, you can't hide it with that hat. So how is the food?
The food tastes amazing. It's absolutely fantastic job, guys. And I'm honored to taste it all. I'm sorry that you can't.
And maybe you could explain what's happening upstairs and what your students are doing.
Upstairs we have tasters of the ingredients and in small bites, so we can all try to find something. I'm sure it's going to be crowded upstairs, but the first ones will get some. So enjoy.
Thank you. And while the chefs has been cooking, we have been drawing this, which has been drawn by a local artist who has been sitting out here in the back. It's been drawing along. So this is a summary of what we talked, made in real time. We'll share this on social media afterwards. And let's just say, just to recap, food is super important. And we need to talk more about food security. We need to talk more about sustainability of the food. And we also need to eat a lot more food. So please come to our food booth. Please talk with the producers that are here. Please talk with the chefs. Reach out to them if you have any more questions. This could not have been possible without really, truly Arctic collaboration and without help and assistance and support from every single Arctic state. So let's finish this off with a big round of applause. Go to the food booth, enjoy, and have a good Arctic Circle. Thank you very much.